3,000 years ago, a Chinese general wrote that all warfare is built on deception, not on strength, not on numbers, deception. And the most dangerous battles, he claimed, were never fought with weapons. They were fought with questions. Most people believe honesty is the virtue and lying is the sin. That transparency builds trust. That if someone asks, they deserve the truth. Machiavelli would have laughed. The moment you answer certain questions honestly, you stop being the player and become the played. You hand them the map to your interior, and they walk through it whenever they want. 7 questions in particular, phrased innocently, sometimes lovingly, quietly extract everything someone needs to control you. By the end, you'll never hear them the same way again. And the 7th one is the one almost no one survives. Baltasar Gracián wrote about this in 1647 in a book called The Art of Worldly Wisdom that almost nobody reads anymore. He had 100 different ways of saying the same thing. Show too little and people lose interest. Show too much and you've handed them every weapon they'll ever need against you. The art of survival, he wrote, lies in deciding which half to keep. Modern psychology calls this asymmetric disclosure. In every conversation between two people, the one who reveals less holds more. Not because they're mysterious, because the other one has already armed them. Manipulators know this instinctively. They don't ask better questions than other people. They ask the same questions everyone asks, but they listen to the answers like an architect studying load-bearing walls. They're not curious, they're surveying. The 7 questions you're about to recognize aren't dangerous because they're rare. They're dangerous because they sound exactly like things normal people say. That's the trap. Question 1. Be honest with me. It almost always arrives wrapped in something kind. A soft voice, a wounded look, sometimes a hand on yours. The phrasing varies. I just want the truth. Tell me what you really think. I can take it. But the structure underneath is identical. Listen carefully to what they're actually saying. They're not asking for honesty. They're asking for you to disable the part of yourself that protects you from them. Every social interaction comes with a built-in filter. You soften things. You shape your delivery. You hold back what doesn't need to be said. This isn't dishonesty. This is competence. It's the same instinct that keeps you from telling your boss exactly what you think of them, or your mother-in-law what you really think of her cooking. The filter isn't a flaw. It's an immune system. When someone says, "Be honest with me," they're requesting administrative access to that immune system. And the moment you grant it, you're operating at a vulnerability you didn't choose. There's a fascinating body of research from the 1990s by psychologist Bella DePaulo, who spent years cataloging the lies people tell each day and found that the vast majority weren't deception at all. They were what she called social lubrication, the small adjustments humans make to keep relationships functional. Saying you're fine when you're tired, saying the dinner was great when it was passable, saying you understand when you don't want to argue. These aren't sins. They're how civilization works. So when someone insists you abandon them, when they demand the unfiltered truth, they're not trying to know you better. They're trying to remove the social lubricant that protects you both. What follows is rarely more intimacy. What follows is leverage. Watch what happens after you open up to them. Track it. The next argument you have, that vulnerability appears as a weapon. The next time you disagree, that confession becomes evidence. The disarmament wasn't connection. It was reconnaissance. The Machiavellian response isn't to lie. It's to refuse the binary. I am being honest with you. This is what I'm comfortable saying. That sentence is a closed door dressed in a smile. It tells them everything. That you understand the game, that you're playing, and that they won't get further today. Most people fail this question because they confuse intimacy with disclosure. Real intimacy is built on trust earned over years. Disclosure is just data, and data, in the wrong hands, becomes a contract you didn't sign. Question 2. What do you really think of name? In 1956, Mao Zedong launched what he called the 100 Flowers campaign. The slogan was almost poetic. Let 100 flowers bloom. Let 100 schools of thought contend. He invited China's intellectuals, writers, and party members to share their honest criticisms of the Communist Party. He encouraged it. He insisted on it. For about a year, people did. Letters were written. Articles were published. Names were attached to opinions. Then, Mao reversed the policy and launched the anti-rightist campaign. By 1959, somewhere between 500,000 and several million people who had spoken honestly were branded as rightists, demoted, imprisoned, sent to labor camps, or killed. Mao later admitted the entire thing had been a deliberate trap. In his words, how can we catch the snakes if we don't let them out of their holes? Pause on that structure. He didn't ask people what they thought because he wanted to know. He asked because he wanted to identify them. Every time someone asks you what you think of a third person, a coworker, a family member, a mutual friend, that same architecture is potentially in play. The question sounds curious. It might even sound caring. But the function of the question is rarely the same as its surface. What you say lands somewhere. It travels. The person you criticize hears about it eventually. Not the careful nuance you use, but the headline. She said you were difficult. The asker, meanwhile, learns 3 things: who you trust, who you don't, and how you talk about people behind their backs. That last one is the real prize. Because if you'll talk about that person to them, you'll talk about them to someone else. They've just learned the rules of how you operate, and they file that away. Robert Greene's 20th law in the 48 Laws of Power is do not commit to anyone. He doesn't mean isolate yourself. He means understand that every alliance you visibly form becomes a constraint and a vulnerability. The honest answer to what do you think of name is almost always a constraint disguised as candor. The Machiavellian response is to say something true but useless. He's interesting. She has her moments. I don't know him well enough to have a strong opinion. These aren't lies. They're truths with no nutrition in them. You've answered the question. You've given them nothing. Watch how rarely people accept that answer. Watch how they often push for more. That push is the tell. Notice something. The first 2 questions sound nothing alike. One demands honesty. One requests a verdict on someone else. But underneath, they're the same shape, both designed to make you produce information you wouldn't naturally volunteer. Keep that pattern in mind. Every question on this list shares that DNA. Question 3. What's wrong? Are you okay? This is one of the hardest to recognize because it sounds like care. Sometimes it is care. But pay attention to who asks it, when, and what did they do with the answer. There are people who ask, are you okay? The way doctors ask, where does it hurt? They want the diagnosis, not because they want to heal you, but because they want to know which organ to press next. Sidney Girard, a psychologist at the University of Florida, spent the 1960s studying what he called the disclosure power dynamic. His core finding was uncomfortable. When one person reveals significantly more about themselves than the other, the more disclosed person consistently reports feeling closer afterward, and consistently loses status in the relationship over time. They weren't necessarily disliked. They were just easier to influence, easier to predict, and easier to dismiss when convenient. When you tell someone what's bothering you, you're handing them 3 things at once. You're handing them a picture of your current emotional state. You're handing them a map of what destabilizes you. And you're handing them ammunition for any future conflict, because the wound you describe today becomes the pressure point they push tomorrow. A real friend doesn't need an itemized confession to support you. They notice. They show up. They let you talk when you're ready. The person who urgently extracts your bad day from you, who probes when you're quiet, who demands the details, that person is rarely after your well-being. They're after your interior. Gracián wrote, more than 3 centuries ago, do not show your wounded finger, for everything will knock against it. He didn't mean hide everything. He meant understand that the wound you reveal becomes the wound the world targets, by accident or design. Most of the world won't aim for it, but the few who do will aim every time. The Machiavellian response isn't to fake happiness. It's to give an answer that's emotionally honest without being structurally useful. Long week, I'll be fine. Just thinking. Tired, but managing. These tell the truth. You're not pretending to be radiant while withholding the architecture of your distress. Reserve your wound for the people who have earned it. Most people in life have not. Stop for a moment. If you've been keeping track, you might have noticed something strange about the questions so far. None of them are what people typically warn you about. There's no tell me your password. No give me your social security number. No obvious abstraction. The questions on this list are camouflaged inside ordinary conversation. That camouflage is the point. The dangerous questions don't look dangerous. They look like Tuesday. Question 4. How much do you make? How much did that cost? How much do you pay in rent? The taboo around money in many cultures isn't prudishness. It's protection. It exists for a reason older than etiquette, because the person who knows your numbers can calibrate their entire approach to you. Your salary tells them your ceiling. Your rent tells them your runaway. The price of your watch tells them whether you bought it for status or comfort. Every piece of financial data is a coordinate, and once they have enough coordinates, they have your position. Robert Cialdini, the social psychologist who wrote Influence, spent decades documenting how information asymmetry plays out in negotiation. His finding was simple and brutal. The party with more information about the other's resources can structure offers to extract maximum value, while leaving the other party feeling like they got a fair deal. This isn't theory. This is the structural reason why real estate agents ask you what your budget is before showing you houses, and why car salespeople ask what monthly payment you can afford. They're not solving for what you need, they're solving for the highest number you'll accept. This logic doesn't stop at sales. It applies in friendships, in romance, in family. The cousin who knows you got a raise asks for the loan a month later. The person who knows your rent suggests a more expensive trip. The partner who knows your bonus structures the joint expenses to absorb most of it. Sun Tzu wrote that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. The financial version is simpler. Subdue the negotiation before it starts by knowing more than the other party. The Machiavellian response is the gentle deflection that doesn't read as evasion. I do okay. Enough. I prefer not to talk the numbers. If you're being pressed harder than that, the pressing itself is the data. Normal people accept I do okay and move on. Only the people calibrating against you push for specifics. You'll be amazed, once you start practicing this, how often the people who seemed merely curious about your finances were actually planning around them. Question 5. Why did you do that? This one weaponizes a quirk of human psychology that almost nobody catches in real time. The moment you're asked why, your brain enters a different mode. You shift from acting to defending, from operating in your own frame to operating in theirs. The question presupposes you an explanation, and the simple act of providing one ratifies the presupposition. There's a body of research from the 1980s and 1990s by Saul Kassan at Williams College on the psychology of interrogation. The way people, when pressured to justify a behavior, will invent reasons they didn't have at the time, and then come to believe those invented reasons themselves. His work was originally about false confessions, but the mechanism appears in every social context where one person demands explanations from another. Notice how often the question why appears in arguments. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you say that? Why did you make that decision? Each one positions the asker as judge and you as defendant. Each one obligates you to construct a defense in real time, under pressure, without having prepared one. And here's the trap inside the trap. Whatever defense you produce becomes a permanent record. You've now committed to a reason. If your behavior changes later, you're inconsistent. If your reasoning gets contradicted, you're caught. The why interrogation manufactures evidence that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. Cardinal Richelieu famously said, "Give me 6 lines written by the most honest of men, and I will find an excuse in them to hang them." 6 lines of self-justification under pressure is more than enough. Machiavelli was clearer. The prince must learn how not to be good. He didn't mean be evil. He meant never let yourself be cornered into rules that someone else gets to write. The why interrogation hands the other person a pen. The Machiavellian response is to refuse the frame, not aggressively, just structurally. I had my reasons. It made sense at the time. I don't think that requires explaining. If you're in a relationship that genuinely deserves explanations, you can offer them on your terms, when you're ready, in your phrasing, in your time. But you don't have to manufacture defenses on demand. Watch what happens when you stop justifying. Watch how the people who genuinely respect you accept it. Watch how the ones who didn't escalate. The escalation is the diagnosis. Question 6. Are you free this weekend? Are you doing anything Tuesday? Got a minute? Robert Cialdini called this foot in the door technique, and it's the cornerstone of nearly every form of social engineering ever documented. The structure is brutally simple. Get a small commitment first, then escalate. Notice what these questions do. They ask for yes or no on availability without telling you what you're agreeing to. If you say yes, I'm free, you've already pre-committed. The actual ask comes after, and now refusing the actual ask creates a strange social friction because you just told them you were available. To refuse, you either had to contradict yourself or invent a reason. Both feel rude. Both create pressure to comply with whatever you're about to ask for. In 1966, Stanford psychologists Jonathan Friedman and Scott Fraser ran a now famous study where they went door to door asking homeowners if they'd allow a small "Drive carefully" sign in their window. Most agreed. 2 weeks later, The same homeowners were asked if they'd allow a massive billboard with the same message blocking their entire front yard. The compliance rate jumped 76% compared to 17% in homes that hadn't been pre-committed by the small request. Pre-commitment hijacks consistency. Once you said yes to small, your brain rewrites your self-image to match. I'm someone who agrees to things. From that platform, the next yes is structurally easier to extract. Are you free this weekend is a small sign in the window. The billboard hasn't shown up yet. The Machiavellian response is to never answer the meta question without the actual question. Depends on what you have in mind. What's up? Tell me what you're thinking, then I'll tell you if I'm free. This isn't paranoid, it's protocol. You've simply refused to agree to something invisible. The people who genuinely respect your time don't mind this. They tell you what they want and let you decide. The people who need the pre-commitment to make their ass work get strange when you refuse it. That strangeness is the diagnostic. You've revealed which category they were operating in. Most of life's exhausting commitments, the favors, the obligations, the slow drain of energy you can't quite explain, were authorized by an answer to this question. You said you were free before you knew what free was going to cost. Question 7. What do you really want? This is the one almost no one survives. And to understand why, you have to go back to the first principle Machiavelli ever wrote down. In The Prince, written in 1513, while he was exiled and watching the Medici dismantle everyone he'd worked with, Machiavelli laid out a single law that runs through almost everything else in the book. He wrote that men in general judge more by their senses than by their hands, that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few feel what you really are. The implication was sharp. The moment people know what you actually want, they know exactly how to either give it to you on their terms or withhold it indefinitely. Your desires are your operating system. They are the machine code beneath every choice you make, and the person who knows your real desires can predict you, lead you, and trade you against yourself with surgical precision. This is why so many of the most effective manipulators in history, political, romantic, professional, share the same opening move. They ask what you want. They ask what you really want. They ask what would make you happy, and then they listen. What they listen for isn't your answer. They listen for the pattern. Are you driven by validation, security, recognition, belonging, revenge against a specific kind of person? Once they identify the engine, they don't have to motivate you anymore. They just have to dangle the right fuel. There's a chilling pattern in the records of cult recruitment that researchers like Margaret Singer documented through the 1970s and 80s. Recruiters didn't talk much in early conversations. They asked what was missing in the recruit's life, what the recruit was hoping for, what they secretly wanted that they hadn't found anywhere else. By the third or fourth conversation, the cult was offering exactly and unmistakably what the recruit had named. This wasn't coincidence. The recruits had built the cage themselves and then walked into it. The same dynamic plays out in subtler form constantly. The boss who learns you crave recognition assigns you visible projects with no raises. The partner who learns you fear abandonment uses distance as a discipline tool. The friend who learns you want to be seen as generous never stops asking for favors. Your wants are not yours alone the moment you say them aloud. They become contracts other people enforce against you. Greene's third law in the 48 Laws of Power is conceal your intentions. The phrasing matters. Not hide your goals. Not lie about your desires. Conceal. The goals exist. The desires are real. You simply do not let them become legible to people who haven't earned the right to see them. The Machiavellian response to what do you really want is misdirection toward the true. You answer with a smaller want, a surface want, something true but not central. I want to do good work. I want to be financially comfortable. I want a quiet weekend. All true. None of them the engine. The engine stays under the hood. You only show your real desires to people whose interests are deeply tied to yours over long time horizons. That list is shorter than you think. Most people fail this question because they confuse being known with being safe. They think that if someone really understood them, the world would be gentler. The opposite is closer to true. Being fully known by people who don't love you isn't intimacy, it's exposure. And exposure is what every predator from every era has wanted from every target. There's a thread running through all 7 of these questions worth pulling at the end. None of them require a lie. Look at the responses across all 7. I'm being honest with what I'm comfortable saying. He's interesting. Just thinking. I'll be fine. I do okay. I have my reasons. Depends on what you have in mind. I want to do good work. Every one of them is true. Every one of them is also a wall. The mistake most people make is believing that the only alternative to honesty is deception. Machiavelli, Gracián, Sun Tzu, and every serious student of human dynamics for the last 2,000 years would tell you that's a child's binary. There's a third option, and it's the one that quiet adults have always used. You tell the truth at a different location. You answer the question that was actually asked rather than the question they hope to embed inside it. This is not cynicism. This is competence. The same person who never tells their employer their unfiltered thoughts about a coworker isn't being dishonest at work, they're being functional. The same instinct that keeps you from telling a stranger on a plane your relationship problems isn't repression, it's good judgment. We already know how to do this. We just forget when someone close to us asks us to do it less carefully. What changes once you internalize all 7 is that you start hearing conversations differently. You begin noticing the structure underneath the words.